Back in 2013, Microsoft needed a replacement for the quickly aging Xbox 360 and thus released the Xbox One, to a very mixed response because games were not the main topic used to sell this new powerful hardware. This has continued to hurt them as only around 39 million units, less than half of Sony's counterpart, have been sold so far. This could also be down to the main difference between the two consoles, and that's the exclusives. Starting off with an Xbox staple, Forza Motorsport 5 showed the graphical power of the new hardware was simply the best looking racing game at the time. Featuring 200 cars and 17 circuits to race around, critics and players gave mixed reviews. Although the actual racing was great with trademark Forza handling and great AI races, there simply wasn't as much choice as Forza 4, and so wasn't seen as a full release for this racing franchise.
Sorry about that, buddy. I thought you were one of those zombies. You got kind of a shambling thing going on. You may want to perk it up a bit.
Do you need Zombrex too? I need it real bad.
Hey, no. I'm just here doing a job. I'm Gary. Who the hell are you?
Nick Ramos.
Capcom released Dead Rising 3 to some pretty good reviews from both critics and players. You controlled Nick Ramos in the third-person open-world zombie beat-em-up, whilst crafting some crazy weapons and trying to find more comical ways to kill as many zombies as possible.
Defeat your Emperor! I, Nero Augustus Germanicus, command that you defeat your Emperor!
Xbox players also got the chance to own something a little more serious with Rise Son of Rome. Developed by Crytek, this third-person action-adventure hack-and-slash is simply stunning. Set in ancient Rome, players control Marius Titus, a Roman general out to revenge his murdered family, using combos to slash and block attacks from enemies. This here though was where one of the largest problems with the game was, with critics complaining about the many quick-time events, and the story was simply just too short. Going into 2014, ex-Call of Duty developers created a new studio, Respawn Entertainment, and released Titanfall, an online first-person shooter with some outstanding traversal and Call of Duty-like mechanics. The thing that set Titanfall apart was the Titans themselves. The giant Transformer-like mechs brought a new way of playing and completely changed every match when someone managed to get into one. The main criticism with the game was the lack of any single-player campaign, which was finally put right in the sequel. Up next was another Forza title, this time with Horizon 2. Set in southern France and northern Italy, this open world racing game once again followed the Horizon Festival. With a stunning open world and driving mechanics that Forza is known for, reviews were good, with most saying that although the tracks can't compete with the mainstream Forza releases, the open world made up for it however, and we've seen a couple of sequels since. Insomniac shocked everyone when they released Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox and not the PlayStation. Players take control of a Fizco employee, taking on people that have drank too much Fizco energy drink called overcharged drinkers in Sunset City. The game was praised for the traversal, which made moving around the city a lot of fun, also being a visually good looking game with some great combat and comedic moments. Many still hope for a sequel one day. Going into 2015, Moon Studios created a 2D masterpiece with Ori and the Blind Forest. Players play as a white spirit guardian named Ori, and shown the light and eyes of the forest spirit tree, moving between platforms and solving puzzles. The game is beautiful with gameplay based on games such as Rayman. After a great critical reception and strong sales, a sequel is in development and is hotly anticipated. Later on in the year, we get another Forza game, and this time with Forza Motorsport 6. Featuring 450 cars and 27 tracks, this was a lot meatier than the last entry. Nighttime racing and rain were also introduced, making this game feel different from older entries, and thus something worth buying for any racing fan. Review scores were very good, and players once again enjoyed it, but the Xbox One still needed a large, well-known title to help it.
Say, before we make this jump, anybody want to say a few words?
I figure if God can hear how scared I am, so can everyone else. Locke, you buying the first drink when we're done?
You ask, you buy. Fire Team Osiris, the light is green.
With Bungie leaving Microsoft and creating Destiny, someone else needed to create the Xbox One's top exclusive. 343 Industries were chosen and Halo 5 Guardians was released to an awful lot of hype and fanfare. Microsoft finally had their biggest IP out in the wild and things were suddenly looking up for the Xbox One, but a few interesting choices with the game weren't taken well at all. This time around, it wasn't just Master Chief as the main character, but also Spartan Locke, and once again you were tasked with saving the universe. This, however, was the main problem. The franchise was known for Master Chief and he was even the mascot for the Xbox brand, so replacing him was not a popular move. Sales were still very good and the multiplayer and gameplay were well received, but the changes to the story and possibly the fact that there's been so many Halo games, so possibly people are getting bored of the franchise, meant that the player drop-off was much larger than previously seen in the franchise, and the Xbox One was still looking for something big to sell consoles.
Spartan Jameson Locke, UNSC. Captain Lasky sends his greetings, and thanks you for your cooperation.
Oni, out of the shadows. The spies announce themselves now, Agent Locke.
Going into 2016, Microsoft needed something different, and Remedy Entertainment gave them just that with Quantum Break, a third-person action-adventure with players taking control of Jack Joyce, who can manipulate time because of a botched time travel experiment, and coming into contact with his former friend Paul Serene about how to deal with the apocalyptic end of time. The game also features live action parts in the form of a TV series, for many cutscenes with what happens being determined by choices the player makes throughout the game. Releasing to quite positive reviews with graphics, gameplay and story being praised, however the TV show and choices for the show came under quite a lot of criticism and a sequel has not been announced.
Going too fast for you? Okay, what do you want to cover first? You tell me.
Let's start at the beginning.
Another year and another Forza game released, this time with Forza Horizon 3. This time the Horizon Festival has moved to Australia with outstanding results. The open world is varied and races are fun, but the biggest change this time was that player is now the director of the festival, so has the ability to set up custom races and hire or fire drivers for the festival. Forza Horizon 3 quickly became the most critically acclaimed exclusive on the console and has even seen by some as the game of the year.
Welcome home, James.
How'd you know we were here? Huh. That's new.
Not that new.
When Gears of War 4 was released, the Xbox One was still in need of something big that wasn't a driving game or a first-person shooter, and that's just what they delivered. Being a third-person shooter with characters people care about, everything was set for a big return, and the look, gameplay and multiplayer all lived up to those expectations. The problem was the story and writing, which at times felt outdated compared to more modern titles, and seemed stuck in the previous generation. The game played on the nostalgia of Marcus Phoenix whilst having you play as his son, JD. Even with problems with the story, Gears 5 is in development, so this franchise is well alive and kicking.
Oh, God. Dad. Oh, come on, Dad. Dad! Dad! Damn it! Come on! Oh, come on! Come on! God damn it! Pete, damn it! Get up!
JD.
Dad!
Stop.
Get up! Come on, Dad, get up! Come on!
2017 brought Halo Wars 2, a real-time strategy game set just after the events of Halo 5. The main story revolves around the crew of the United Nations Space Command ship Spirit of Fire as they take on the Banished to get control over the Ark. Reviews were generally good and the control scheme with the controller praised, along with the accessibility for new players. However, for more seasoned strategy players there simply wasn't enough depth and there was some AI problems as well. When it was announced, Cuphead got a lot of attention from its art style, looking like a 1930s cartoon. Problem was, we only got to see boss fights, so the game looked very shallow, but they added in platforming sections and the game released a critical and commercial success. The game was stunning and seriously challenging all at the same time, all whilst allowing for couch co-op so you could get frustrated with your mate. Although there's been no announcement of a sequel yet, hopes are high that we might just be diving back into the incredibly difficult and fun world of Cuphead once again. Forza once again made its annual return with Forza Motorsport 7, which once again had more cars than before, with over 700 now and 32 tracks to race on. This was the best looking Forza game to date, as it was the first game developed for the Xbox One X and thus had 4K graphics and 60 frames per second, meaning the racing had never looked this good. There was a few problems however, especially with the loot box system used to unlock things in the game, but this couldn't stop some great reviews and players loving it. Finally, in 2018, legendary developer Rare reappeared with Sea of Thieves, an online multiplayer first-person pirate game. In the game, players have to work together to steer, navigate, repair and fight other crews to hunt for treasure in a beautiful open world. Creatures could show up like the Kraken and sharks, and of course, skeletons, all whilst the threat of other players loomed. The game wasn't perfect, however, and many complained about the lack of depth. Apart from finding some treasure, there really wasn't much to do. This is something they've been working on though through expansions and DLC, so the game could yet turn out to be something special. Next up was a return to the open world zombie survival world of State of Decay, with State of Decay 2. Players had to build up a community to survive hordes of undead zombies, with scavenging a main part of the gameplay loop. Players had many complaints, however, with a huge lack of depth and even too much realism, with the gameplay showing some of the more mundane parts of zombie survival, and show perhaps more than ever the gulf between Sony and Microsoft exclusives. Finally, we have the most recent release, and you guessed it, it's a Forza game. This time it's Forza Horizon 4, and the festival has moved to the UK. The big change this around is the new season system, which completely changes the world based on if it's summer, autumn, winter or spring, with winter being the biggest change by freezing over late and creating new areas to race around with a completely different feel to the way every car handles. Gaining great reviews and sales, players love the new system, and this is the best the franchise has delivered so far, with a true love letter to the world of cars and motorsport. Looking forward, Crackdown 3 is finally coming out soon, with Terry Crews as the main character. This is gearing up to be a really fun third-person shooter. Ori and the Will-O-The-Wisps look set to carry on the amazing story and platforming of the first, and really could be something special. Halo Infinite follows on the story of where Halo 5 left off, and could possibly be the game that saves the franchise if they get it right, whilst Gears of War 5 looks set to carry on the fight between the humans and the Locusts.